I don't really run to run campaigns. I run to govern. I run to get into office and to make change and to get stuff done.
Hello, and welcome to The Conversation. I'm Dasha Burns, Politico's White House bureau chief, and every week on this show, I invite one of the most compelling, sometimes unexpected power players in Washington and beyond in for a chat to find out how they're navigating and shaping this incredible era of American politics. I got a chance to talk to one of the people that is sure to have Democrats taking notes, New Jersey's Governor-elect Mikie Sherrill. I caught up with her just after her landslide win. Now, Sherrill burst onto the scene back in 2018 when she flipped her Republican district blue. She's a former Navy helicopter pilot who's known for her pragmatic approach to politics. And that approach was front and center in this race. Guys, this was a very closely watched election because Republicans wanted to see if the gains that Trump made in New Jersey in 2024 might translate to the Republican gubernatorial candidate, Jack Ciattarelli. But it was a blowout for Sherrill, and Democrats are likely then to be using her as a blueprint going into the 2026 midterms. We talked about all of that, how she got here, why she believes that the economy is the key to reaching voters, and what she hopes to do on day one. Here's my conversation with Governor-elect Mikie Sherrill. Governor-elect Mikie Sherrill, thank you so much for joining the conversation. How does it feel to hear that, Governor-elect?
It feels great. It's very exciting. So I was down in Trenton. I've met with the governor. We've announced our transition team. So we are off to the races on day one.
Congratulations on the victory. I want to kind of hear about that moment last night when you realized that you had won.
We were seeing really great numbers. So I had a sense that we were in a good space, but I'm also really superstitious, former naval aviator. So you never quite know until you know. And we had really great early returns. The models were looking like we were outperforming our model. What I was hoping for was a big victory, a mandate, so we could really govern well. And when it became clear that we were going to start to win by big numbers, that's when I got incredibly excited. I'd sort of in my mind thought, I'd really like to have a 10-point victory here. And that's what I was modeling toward. When that morning, some weird poll came out saying that it was tied and, everyone's like, oh my gosh, is everything going on? I'm like, no, I think 10 points, but we'll see. But 13 points, I'm like, wow, that was pretty awesome.
The numbers were funky in sort of the final stretch. What were the conversations like for your campaign as that started to percolate?
I'm not sure what they were polling. We just looked at it and we're like, this makes zero sense. They were saying 60% of the black vote was going to go to Jack Ciattarelli, which there was just zero signs of that at all. I mean, zero. So that poll was odd. But again, I never really felt too nervous about my ability to win this one. I've been running in New Jersey tough races for years. I knew what I had to do. And I know what success looks like when I start to see a lot of, I shouldn't say kids, a lot of young people getting really excited and engaged. When I see a huge volunteer effort, we had the biggest volunteer field effort that this state has ever run. And then I really start to see that as I'm talking about key issues that I'm focusing on, I'm getting a real response from the community. So as I show up in a community and I start talking about exactly what it is I've charted out in the community, like, yep, that's it. That's exactly what I want to see. So all of these things were really good on the ground. Our internal polling was very good. We were in the right place, doing exactly the right things for a lot of time now. And then as we started to see the votes come in, vote by mail, we started to say, whoa, we're really overperforming here. So that started about several weeks ago, and then we started to get the early in-person vote. And, our early in-person vote's a little newer. So as that started to come in really overperforming, by the time we got to Election Day, we had about a 300,000 vote firewall, a blue firewall. It was at that point felt like just a matter of how much we'd win by. So it was great.
There was a lot of talk toward the end there that this could be a real nail biter, really close, or potentially that your opponent could win. We don't have a final vote count yet, but yeah, it looks pretty much like a blowout. What do you make of all that underperformance talk?
I was kind of thinking we'd have a big day. Yeah, blowout is the word. It was a big, big day. And so that was wonderful to see. The narrative was weird in the primary and it was weird in the general. And I think some of that was because of how people felt from 24. But man, I mean, you look at the No Kings protest, and I kept looking at everything going on, not just here in New Jersey, but around the country, and thinking, what are people missing? Because we're seeing energy. And I mean, I would have people come in. We do, a 500-person rally, and they'd leave saying, I don't know if there's any energy on the ground. I'm like, well, I don't know what else to show you guys. I went to Ocean County, which is like the reddest of the red counties. I think I was there last Wednesday or something. On a Wednesday afternoon, we had hundreds of people out in like ruby red Ocean County. Again, I'm superstitious. I always run through the tape. I never take anything for granted, but I keep seeing these weird reports.
You're like, this doesn't match up.
Exactly, exactly.
I'm curious, did it ever cross your mind that like maybe gender could have played a role in underestimating you or your campaign?
It's kind of a known thing that women candidates in the Northeast, it's the toughest place for a woman to run. That could have just played into it. But I also think I'm a different kind of candidate, not just because I'm a woman, but because I've always built a different kind of campaign in areas of my state. My state's, we have what we call county organizations, party organizations that turn out a vote. I I came up in a place that wasn't organized. It was a Republican area. My district in 2018, I ran for the first time in a Trump district. Um, and it was the heart of the Republican Party, historically Morris County, and which I just won, I'd like to say. I'm very excited about that. And so when I ran there, there just wasn't an incredibly juggernaut of a Democratic machine there. So we always built our campaigns with grassroots support, with roundtables, we always had to get the swing vote because without it in a Trump district, you weren't going to win. I think the traditional Democratic campaign here for many years just has relied on the machine getting out their votes, and they did it in the blue areas and that then done. And because we built this a different way, I think it wasn't as clear to people how we were doing it and how we were getting our votes out. And I think that probably made some people nervous. But I would say that we invested a lot of time, energy, and resources in a statewide field program, the likes of which had never been seen. We built out a field program that was very representative of our entire state. We had paid programs going on, and we also really worked well with the county party organizations, leveraging them to get out their vote.
You won decisively. We've talked about this, but down the ballot,
We can keep talking about it.
I know your favorite subject for a little
Yeah,
bit.
happy to keep talking about it.
But that win translated down ballot too. Democrats' lead in the state assembly expanded by at least 3, which is to say that you're arriving with a very strong hand. So, what are you going to do with it day one?
Day one, I'm declaring a state of emergency on utility costs. So when I say that it was important to me to connect with people, that was one of the key areas that connected. When I went to speak to people, and again, I just would speak to thousands and thousands of people about what was going on, what was keeping them up at night, what was happening here. And obviously, I don't think it's a secret, affordability. But there was also a sense that everybody came in and told them, oh, yeah, I'm going to do X or Y or Z. And nobody did anything. And their costs kept going up. And I was hearing that. And, I was charting out a path, how I was going to take on some of the entrenched interests in Trenton, red tape, permitting delays, drive down costs, address some of the first time home buyers programs and taking on landlords who are colluding. But I still had a sense that people maybe needed to hear how seriously I was taking their concerns about costs, because they felt as if, they kept hearing people come in and say, yeah, I'm going to address that. So finally, I'm like, look, here's a proof point. Here's how you can hold me accountable. I'm going to declare a state of emergency on day one, and I'm freezing your utility costs. As a person who served in the military, I think people understand that I do decisive things, that my leadership style is, of course, coming from that place, going to be decisive, going to be proactive, so they can trust I'm going to do it. I had some proof points. I became the most effective member in the New Jersey delegation, only my second term at Congress. So I think I had some proof points there in my leadership, but they also knew where I came from. And then also that I was a mom. So it was personal to me. The state functioning, families doing well, kids being able to move back here and afford a home.
I mean, talk about decisive. Like you came right out with that answer about day one. That was one of the most declarative answers to the day one question that I've heard from a candidate.
Right. And that's what people want, is this kind of bold action and a leadership, and being willing to take on the key things for them. But then also being able in this time to stand up to the attacks on the economy coming from Washington. So, for example, Trump has said he's going to terminate the Gateway Tunnel project. My opponent showed no signs of doing anything about that. He said it wasn't a New Jersey problem. The Gateway Tunnel project's the Hudson River tunnels from New Jersey to New York. 200,000 commuters take them from New Jersey to New York a day. So he just was obviously not going to take on Trump in any way. And that spoke to voters too.
Speaking of taking on Trump, you are soon going to be governing with Donald Trump in the White House. How do you plan to navigate that relationship? Are there areas where you see room for cooperation, or should New Jerseyans expect that you will be a counterweight to Trump?
I'm really hoping that the administration can see how key it is to invest in New Jersey because right now I think they're seeing a free fall in the economy. 22 states are in a recession, some are in danger of recession. Here in New Jersey, we have this opportunity with the Gateway Tunnel to provide almost 100,000 jobs. We have 20% of the nation's GDP comes out of the Northeast. Trump is really familiar with the Northeast. This is where he's from. We have the FIFA World Cup coming here. We have the 250th anniversary celebrations coming here with huge investments in tourism. So there's a lot of economic activity going on in this region of the country. So I'm really hoping we can convince the administration, hey, if you want to have a comeback in this economy, this is where you start and this is how you do it.
Have you reached out, or has the president reached out to you yet?
I haven't spoken to him yet.
But it sounds like for those kinds of key projects, especially infrastructure, you are interested in having a productive relationship.
I'm really interested in making sure I'm clawing back as many resources into the state of New Jersey as possible.
You campaigned as a moderate Democrat. New York City is just next door. A lot of your New Jerseyans commute in, as you said. New York City just elected a Democratic socialist as mayor. And there's a lot of talk about that dichotomy of both of you and of course, Abigail Spanberger in Virginia uh, getting elected on the same day. And the questions that raises about the future of the party. So how do you square your victory with his and what it means for Democrats moving forward?
I think what people want to hear is from a leader who is going to address their key issues. And then I think they want to see really good, clear results. I sort of run in maybe a way that's not, sometimes I think it's not fashionable. Just getting on the ground, listening to people. I don't really run to run campaigns. I run to govern. I run to get into office and to make change and to get stuff done. And so the best way to do that in a campaign is to hear from everyone, to understand deeply what's going on in your community and your state, and then take action to address it. And I think what we're seeing in all of these races, what all these races have in common is there is this desire to make change, that things aren't working for people. And I think in the Democratic Party, we believe deeply that government at its best delivers for working people. And what I would say that the juggernaut of a campaign I built is built on that traditional, powerful Democratic base, working people. I mean, we saw every single county, we have 21 counties, every single county moved to the left in this race. I think we saw 22-point swings in Hudson County, a big Latino county. I think about 18-point swing in Passaic County, a Latino and a Black county, very diverse. So we saw these huge swings. And I think that's because working people in working class suburbs or Black communities or Latino communities, working people need government to function well. They need really good schools because that's how we all see our kids as having great access to opportunity. Working people want to see access to really good jobs because obviously that's how they pay their bills. That's how they get access to opportunities. These bricks and mortar things of building a powerful Democratic message and Democratic Party come from working people. And I think what you're seeing in these races is a deep desire to address the needs of working people.
I want to pick up on a couple of things you just mentioned there. You talked about traditional Democratic values. You talked about appealing to the working class. There's been some criticism, including from within the Democratic Party, that Democrats have kind of lost their way on some of those basic issues of governing, like kitchen table issues, crime, as an example. Do you agree with that criticism?
I'm a former federal prosecutor, so public safety has always been front and center for me. I'm also somebody who is the granddaughter of a union member. I track my grandpa's union job to taking us out of poverty and putting us squarely in the middle class, and why I'm here today. So I would say that when we get away from focusing on some of those key issues to how people get access to opportunity. I have said multiple times, I I am so pro-choice. I know the devastation it breeds when women don't have access to make these choices with their doctor. But if I am talking to you about abortion and you cannot pay your rent, then we can't talk. We've got to talk about the first tier issue. And for working families, you can't get to the other issues if you aren't talking about, look, I'm going to make sure you can pay your rent. I'm going to make sure that you can feed your family. I'm going to make sure you have a comfortable job so that you're secure. Those are the key. You get to those, and then you can start to get to a lot of other things. But if you're not addressing those issues, then you're really leaving families hurting, especially in these times when you see the president of the United States who has $6 billion that he could put towards SNAP funding and is refusing to do that. When you're looking at this, you're seeing, gosh, these are families that are in crisis sometimes right now. And if you're not addressing that, if you're not focused on that, then you can't get to other things. In my acceptance speech last night, I was talking about liberty and prosperity. That's our state's motto. Liberty's great, but you can't be free if you are not able to prosper, if you don't have access to good schools, or if you don't have access to a good job or good health care. All the liberty in the world's not going to get you very far.
Look, the midterms have started. Like, this was the kickoff to midterm season. We're in it now. Democrats have had a pretty bleak year until this point, and I think they're going to be looking to you to figure out a model for the path forward for how to win over voters in 2026. What can you do in your role as governor to shape the national brand of the party?
I don't run campaigns to run campaigns. I run campaigns to govern. So I intend to govern incredibly effectively. People have often asked me, what is the key to your success? I say ruthless competence. That is what I want to deliver for New Jersey. And I think that's the best thing I can do for Democrats is deliver really, really well for the people of New Jersey.
New Jersey, one of the things when you talk about cost of living, right? It does have among the highest tax rates in the country while also having those affordability issues. Where do you see the balance of more services versus lower costs for taxpayers?
We have 565 municipalities. And so each of those municipalities has a lot of different services. And right now we're a little bit at the breaking point because we see these hits coming from the federal government that are really impacting our budget. And then we see the property taxes, which is how we fund our schools. And then on top of that, we see a lot of the state taxes that go to funding our transit systems, et cetera. So we like our services, but we're not spending taxpayer dollars as efficiently as we can, which is why I've been talking about how we have to share some of the school administrative services so we can really put money into education, but bring down the cost. We have a bloated administrative system, how we need to share some of the municipal courts and really, really take on those ways of effectively spending money here because we just are at a breaking point. The other real problem that we have in New Jersey is red tape and permitting issues. So you can be delayed for months, if not years, in some of these projects. I was speaking to a woman trying to open a small restaurant, and it took her 8 months, 3 times. She had to go in person, nothing online, to get her permitting done. Each time it failed, she was not told why it failed. She just had to guess. And then each time she did it cost her hundreds of dollars. All the while, she had to have her space ready to go to apply for this permitting. So she's bleeding money through paying rent on the space. That is replicated across the state. So all of these costs add up to people. And as we're facing a federal government that's actively really harming the economy of New Jersey, we have to run our state incredibly well.
You have this military background. You were part of the group of women with military and CIA experience who called yourselves the badasses. Alyssa Sluck and Chrissy Houlihan, Elaine Luria, Abigail Spanberger, who also just won her race in Virginia. Can you talk a little bit about those friendships and how you think your time in the military has affected your approach to politics?
Yeah, somebody told me today I am the first female veteran governor of the United States. So that's exciting. But I think that background of service and that training, we were trained in a certain kind of leadership, servant leadership, that to lead is as much to serve the people that are working for you. And the idea of accountability. So driving that accountability is always so important when you're in dangerous situations. So bringing that into my governing style, bringing that into how I lead, has, I think, been really effective as I've worked in Congress, and something I intend to bring to Trenton as governor. And then I think you see the reason several of those women that you've named have been so effective themselves is because they come from that same kind of background, that tough, can do, proactive.
And you and Spanberger, you guys were roommates, or you lived on the same floor? Like,
Yeah, we were roommates. We lived on the same floor when we first moved down to DC, and then became roommates. And in fact, we were getting texts last night because Chrissy and Alyssa were watching the returns together. So we were all texting.
could you have imagined when you were like rooming, making coffee in the mornings together, like in your PJs, watching movies or whatever, that this was the future?
It is very striking, some of the odd things. So, she was born in New Jersey. I was born in Virginia. We both are the oldest of 3 daughters. We both were roommates. We both entered in that 2018 cycle. We both have the national service backgrounds. I was even, as you're preparing to give your, a speech, an acceptance speech, you kind of look into a lot of different quirky things about the state. And the very first 2 states to come up with a state motto were Virginia and New Jersey, Sic Semper Tyrannis,
Wow.
Liberty and Prosperity. I mean, it just keeps, I keep finding all these things,
There was something cosmic happening when you both were born, I think.
right? It just kind of feels like, oh my gosh. So, but it's been great. I tell people, I mean, how lucky, right? To know the only other person doing what you're doing in the entire country right now, in the entire world, and you know them really well, and you can be like, "Hey, does this make sense?" Text them right away. "Hey, what are you doing about this?" That kind of thing. It's been
I
great.
assume that's going to continue as you guys take office.
Yes, it's been great, and I can't wait. I am hoping we can all figure out a time to get together soon.
Governor-elect, thank you so much. I know this is a crazy time for you. We really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is great, and we'll talk soon. Thanks again.
This has been The Conversation with Dasha Burns. We'll be back next week. If you want to catch future episodes of The Conversation, click that subscribe button below. Thanks for watching.